I mean, we've talked about what, like 8 different things
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
to kind of cope. Acupuncture, Reiki, cognitive behavior therapy might help you, might give you some tools, writing down your feelings, all that stuff. So it's kind of like good transition to the next level, but definitely the next level stuff to basically work on yourself. Now, if we go to like the real meat of the thing, which is reprogramming yourself from within. So basically, for me, because I can't talk about anyone else, I was doing terribly bad and it lasted years. And I was in denial, complete denial for a very long time. So like what people need to understand also is like when other
There's
people...
no shame in this stuff. Everybody experiences it. It's just some of us have tools or have ways and systems that are responding to it pretty well, and some of us just don't. There's no fucking shame in it. That's the crazy part, that to go to a therapist you have to question your manliness or what have you. It's like, fuck that. That's nonsense. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think for me it was not even a question of shame. I was just telling everyone how bad I was feeling, but I was in denial, not because of shame, but I can't really explain why. I was just focused on building a business, and I don't know, I was just like, this is gonna sort itself out for some reason. But what people don't realize is nothing will sort itself out if you don't work on it.
Right.
And first, before working on it, you need to recognize it and integrate the fact that yes, I have this issue, and yes, I shouldn't be ashamed of it, but it's kind of not normal.
Right.
And I could feel 100 times better if I was dealing with that thing. So like, do I want to take now some time, a few weeks, a few months, or a few years to work on that and feel 10 times or 50 times better? Or do I want to kind of ignore the thing and suppress it forever and feel like shit for the rest of my life?
And that's a tough, I know where you're coming from, and it's a tough choice to make, because for us in the moment, especially when we're busy, when we're doing something, when we're focused on something, it's like, I don't have time for this shit.
Exactly.
You know the mentality is like, that's exactly how I felt. It's like, feelings, ain't nobody got time for this. Just, I'm trying to get some work done. But then you are actually doing yourself disservice, because you're making yourself less capable. As we go, the more that stuff is weighing you down, the less capable you become, and it's just a downward slope.
Yeah, completely. Your results in life, in business, money, relationship, happiness, family, whatever, is kind of ending of all the stuff that you've been learning up until now, and all the new stuff that you're integrating every day.
Right.
But by being in this state, you're not able to get anything more. So basically, you're completely hindering your future potential, which could be 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 times bigger and better. And just because you're thinking short term, and I was just thinking, I don't have time for this now. And I was really feeling like I was barely functionable. I would just sit in front of my laptop and I couldn't even read stuff and understand it. But still, I was in this mind of, it's going to get better out.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a business, so I was like, I can't leave the business. It's going to die.
Right.
It's going to die, because you're just thinking, who gives a fuck about your business? Who gives a fuck about your job? Like, what's the most important is really like you feeling better. Like, and it's, I think I'm really open-minded, but when I just look at myself, how much I struggle to really understand that, okay, now I need to take, and it was not even 6 months, or whatever time I need now in life to work 100% on myself, to fix myself. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to continue, basically.
And that's actually one of the things that I want to bring up, is that when people are saying fix themselves. So it's like, the fact is that you're not really broken. It's like we are whole. We are all right at any given moment. It's just we have things to heal. That's it. It's like you're not shattered. You're not broken into pieces. One of the things that a lot of people do is that they don't, for example, have kids or start the career until X happens. So you can do. That's the thing, that if this and that mentality, for example, if this happens, then I'm going to be happy. If this happens, then I'm going to start this. If this happens, if we start thinking that way, that's never going to take us to happiness, fulfillment, and actually healing ourselves, because there's always going to be the next step, the next reason for you to not do something. So as Kevin said, sometimes when you are in that state, you kind of have to allocate all your resources and sort yourself out. But right now, if you're just listening, if you're not feeling like you're at that spot, it's just taking those preventative measures is going to pay off 10x, 100x, 1000x. It's so exponential when it comes to investing in optimization, because you don't realize we don't want to be in a reactive state where it's only a problem when something is knocking on our door, you know. So we want to make sure that it's just so far away that we don't really have to deal with it.
Yeah. And our potential is so much bigger than we imagine.
Oh yeah.
Like that's another thing that people just don't realize, and I would feel like terribly bad, and I would be scared about thinking short term about leaving my business or whatever, selling it, or finding a reason to just work on myself. And I was kind of forced to it because at some point I was just having panic attacks every 2-3 days, and I was unable to work.
Right.
And thanks God I had that level of difficult thing, because it kind of forced me to just leave everything behind.
Yeah.
But without that, and then everything worked out amazingly well in my life, and now I'm financially free. I can do whatever I want, which would never ever have happened if had I not worked on all this stuff, because I was just completely stuck to that level of being barely functionable, which I think more people than we think are basically going through their entire life like that.
Right.
And especially the more you need to work on all this stuff also while you're in your 20s, because you don't have a family yet. You don't have all these responsibilities and these additional stress and excuses, to not work on that, basically.
And another funny thing is that our identity solidifies by the time we're about 35. So by the time we're about 35, most of the population are doing over 95% of our tasks habitually. So imagine that. It's like our identity just got solidified, where if we want to change, we only have 5% to work with. So you being able to ask yourself those questions and look for opportunities to improve from every single level is your chance to actually create more capacity for growth. Is to create that growth mindset. So at the age of 35, when things start solidifying, you don't start dying. You don't keep living the same year, 20 years over. But you actually have 20 years that are going to be full of growth, full of opportunity, and full of because every year I look at myself, and I can proudly say that every single year that I had was the best year yet. And once that stops happening, I know that I'm doing something wrong. Something is going wrong at that point.
So, reprogramming yourself from the within. Let's start with the absolute key, which is getting the basics right. So I wrote down here, but you're going to complement and basically talk about maybe your pillars. I wrote sleep, diet, exercise, and basic supplements.
Yep.
So I don't know if we go through that. For example, sleep, I want to talk about the insomnia thing, because it's a massive issue for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I actually had it too, and I had some herbs and stuff to actually deal with that. So, let's just go through them one by one. So first, sleep, absolute basics.
Yeah, absolute basics. Aligning your body with the cycles of nature. It's that simple. So waking up with the sun, preferably, and then blocking as much light as possible after the sun sets. Because we're still human animals, our bodies are like aligning with the cycles of nature. So that would be the lowest hanging fruit. It's like you wake up with the sun, you expose yourself to fresh air, to natural light. Even if it's cloudy outside, expose yourself to natural light first thing in the morning, and then before you go to bed, turn off your electronics and don't touch your phone at least 30 minutes before bed, and wind down. Drink some tea, take a hot bath, take a cold shower, whatever it is that is going to help you sleep. Just don't scroll on your phone on Instagram before you go to bed. Those are the lowest hanging fruits.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. I love doing some yin yoga, moving a little bit, just kind of slowing myself down, putting my blue light blocking glasses on, and just kind of decompressing, doing some down-regulating breath work. So 4-7-8 technique has shown for a lot of people to be very effective to fall asleep. So 4 count in, 7 count hold, 8 count out. That's it. It's that simple. Through your nose, you inhale for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8 through your mouth. That's That's so easy, and it's gonna put you to sleep in a heartbeat. So when I was suffering from insomnia, I discovered that the cycles, the rhythms, because actually working night shifts. So the reason I developed insomnia because I was working some night shifts, and working on night shift is actually a type 2 carcinogen, meaning that your risk for cancer increases significantly.
Oh.
when you're not sleeping properly. So that was one thing. And then for supplementation, again, that's an advanced technique. I always go with lowest hanging fruits and the basics and the fundamentals first, and then we introduce supplements. But I can mention a few. That would be 5-HTP. Not every day, but every third day I would recommend 5-HTP. GABA, pharma GABA is the best component. Then we'd have magnesium and zinc. So those are like top 4, very easy to get everywhere. When it comes to magnesium, sprayable magnesium is the best one. I like magnesium chloride to spray on my skin, or magnesium malate is another one that is ingestible. So there are a bunch of different forms of magnesium. That would be the basics.
So you just mentioned a few kind of supplements and things that people can do. You mentioned the thing that the screen time and all that stuff before sleep, absolutely key. I've done something very similar actually. When I had all these issues, I had magnesium, which I still take every day, glycine,
yep.
and it's kind of like good to keep you asleep. Also, the room temperature.
Oh, that's absolutely crucial. About 18 to 22 degrees Celsius. That's ideal.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, because insomnia is when your body overheats and then you wake up. And then I had something called Ziziphus, which is it's a Chinese herb that helps you fall asleep actually.
Gotcha.
And
reishi is another one that I like. Reishi mushroom, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. Quite a bunch of stuff to try out for people who have insomnia, and everybody is different, so everybody will react differently to different stuff. But again, like you can try. For me, maybe the main question is related to what we said before about the coping tool. We had like 8, and now we start to talk about herbs and stuff. There's a lot. How do you start or decide? Because you don't want to tell someone you buy 25 herbs. Like how. What would you tell someone who say like, okay, now I have all these tools, cool, but like I don't even know where to start because there's too many.
Right. I personally started by looking at different supplements myself and testing it on myself. And then when I work with clients, I was kind of taking feedback, which stuff is working, which one is not. And the stacks, and obviously looking at the scientific studies and the scientific background on all of those. And the most convincing ones are the ones that I ultimately have. So top 5 of them. I don't feel like you can always become too obsessed with some stuff, so I don't want that. And ultimately it's like, okay, what's that minimal effective dose? I look at everything through that minimal effective dose lenses. Like if your inputs are exceeding the rewards, you're ultimately in the negative, you're losing, so it's pointless.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about diet.
Diet is simple, man. It's like when I think about diet, it's just we overthink it so much. So I usually say, eat real food. That's 3 words. It's like the principle is eat real food, and then we can go, what does that actually mean?
Exactly.
So what is as close to its natural state as possible? What is unprocessed or minimally processed? So if you look at an apple that is coming from a tree and it's in your farmer's market next door, there's no label on it saying that it's healthy and yelling at you that, hey, I'm healthy, buy me. So like a lot of cereals or shitty packaged foods say and claim the amount of iron or like health supplements or what have you are in them. That's bullshit. It's like you don't actually need packaged food to survive. So we want to pick as many natural foods, as many foods that are as close to their natural state as possible. So that means organic, non-processed, biodynamic, what have you. So when it comes to meats, wild-caught fish, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, pasture-raised chicken, pasture-raised eggs. I love the clean stuff ultimately, and your body receives it so much better and so differently. So I'm a huge fan of the micronutrient profiles in them, and there are less chances that you're gonna have to need to supplement when you eat that kind of food. Plus, when it comes to food, I usually don't say what to avoid, but the one thing to avoid as a plague is processed oils. So any seed oils, that would be sunflower, safflower, rapeseed, canola, any vegetable oils for that matter. So if it's a vegetable oil, avoid it. Replace it with coconut oil, with extra virgin olive oil to sprinkle on top. If you're cooking, you can use ghee, lard, grass-fed butter, grass-fed ghee. So ultimately stick to the stable fat, stable oils, because what happens is our body is made up of cells. Every cell has a membrane, and every membrane is made up of fat. So those chemicals that are in those oils are ultimately making into our cells, into our body, and causing these chain reactions of inflammation within our body. So that's one of the things to be really conscious of. If you do buy packaged food, look at hydrogenated oil, margarine, or like canola oil or sunflower oil. If that has that, avoid it. That's a general rule of thumb. So if you're eating whole foods and you're taking care of the oil intake and minimizing any sugar intake, even any artificial sugary stuff, you're good. That's it. That's that simple.
For people to understand, it's food that would get rotten within a day, or like that you need to eat or cook quickly enough so it doesn't get rotten. That's basically the key sign of, oh, this is something that is good for me. And maybe just like a few words on kind of the scientific explanation of why we need to eat that kind of food, talking about our ancestors.
Oh yeah, exactly. This is like when we think about it, the modern food culture has evolved within last 50 years. Our biology hasn't caught up to that. Our biology, that's why obesity is rampant, because our biology, our bodies are thinking, what the fuck are you putting in me? I don't know what to do with this shit. I don't know how to process it. Because of the bioavailability, which is the absorption of food that we consume, and the biochemical reactions that are ultimately caused by it, are dependent on the food that we intake. So all the artificial stuff that is going in, our body doesn't know how to react to it. It's creating these inflammatory reactions. Our biology is not functioning properly. It's attacking itself. So autoimmune diseases, autoimmune conditions, the obesity, the insulin resistance, all that kind of stuff is ultimately because of our lifestyle and mainly coming from food.
Absolutely. So when I was basically healing myself from within, in addition to fasting and all this stuff we're going to talk afterwards, and herbs, the diet part, basically what I read was doing a paleo diet. Why? Because paleo basically is what people used to eat in the Paleolithic time. Exactly. Which is exactly what we talked about. And then the entire kind of theory was all these carbs basically have been invented 10,000 years ago to feed masses for cheap.
Yeah.
But it's actually responsible for all the chronic diseases that we have today that didn't exist before. Diabetes, cancer, and all that stuff that didn't exist before. And it's kind of like being created by all these foods that, the good side was we could feed masses cheaply because we had all this explosion of people, of population that needed to be fed. But the big negative side was all what happened afterwards. And
what we're seeing right now. Like I believe the percentage is about 65% of the population is either overweight or obese. 65%, man. 2 out of 3 are either overweight or obese.
Actually, saw the other day something even worse. It was in the US. For guys, I think it was closer to 75 or 80%, which is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know the exact definition of what they say, overweight or obese, but when I saw that, I was like, that's actually pretty scary. But which leads us to our next key basics after sleep and diet, which is exercises.
Exercise. Well, I also keep that simple. So that's one of the things that I really, as I said, I found a formula ultimately how to do it quickly and how to do it efficiently. So right now I treat exercise as checking the boxes off. So every time I'm exercising, I'm thinking about, okay, what do I need to do really? Okay, strength. Why do we need strength? Is because our bone density is decreasing as we age. Our mitochondrial density within our bones and our joints is decreasing, so we need to load our structure with something heavy. as a bonus to that, you can actually pick up your kids and throw them around when they're growing up. So it's very functional. And when you think about it, it's the most functional thing that we can do when we need to carry something, when we need to pick something up from a floor. We want to be functional and able to do that as we live in the older years, because I'm planning to live until at least 150 years. So I want to maintain that. So I'm not an athlete anymore. I don't want to compete. Looking good is just a byproduct of that. So that's not my priority. That's not my primary objective. I just want to be strong enough to and live long enough as well. Second piece of the equation is heart health. I mean, this baby is beating for us every day. We want to take care of it well. And doing some sort of a cardiovascular exercise. I hate exercising with this, one pace. You're doing an hour on the treadmill nonsense. I really hate that. So instead, I found what works more optimally is 1-to-1 ratio, work to rest. So you're going for 3 minutes straight. You can start at 3 minutes. 3 minutes straight, you're either swimming, biking, running, what have you, whatever form of exercise it is, and you're doing that at the highest sustainable pace. So it should be uncomfortable the whole time you're doing it. So for 3 minutes, you're resting for 3 minutes, or just doing it super slowly, just kind of relaxing, doing 3 minutes again. Do about 5 sets of that, and then keep increasing the time. So 3 minutes will turn into 4, and maybe into 5 someday. But if you do that one time a week, check. You're good. We're good. Another one would be something explosive, something fast. So high intensity interval training. 20 minutes, you're done. So easy. You're just, our best weight is our body weight. Do it with your body, you're done.
And what you basically just talked about right before talking about HIIT, high intensity interval training, is kind of that already.
Yeah.
When you said you just go as strong as possible as hard as possible for 3 minutes, then you rest 3 minutes, you do that 5 times. You can literally go to a field and just run like crazy for 30 seconds or for 1 minute, like crazy, and then wait 1 minute, and then run like crazy, or wait 2 or 3 minutes, run like crazy, and then
that's one of the boxes that I check off as well.
Exactly, and this is
hill sprints. That's like hill sprints or something like a solo bike or something like that, where you're doing something super explosive for about 20 seconds. And that's actually scientifically proven to increase your anaerobic health and aerobic and anaerobic health and capacity, which is pretty fascinating because it takes 15 minutes. The whole thing with warm-up takes under 15 minutes.
Exactly.
So 20 seconds, all out as hard as you can. Then just completely relax and do that 5 to 8 times. You're done. That's it.
You don't even have an excuse that it's going to take too much time in your day, and it's actually life-changing. And it's kind of, to simplify it, it's kind of a kind of high-intensity interval training. So you don't need to go to. There is these berry boot camps and these things where you go 1 hour in this. It's crazy and it's awesome, but you can also do it yourself without you don't. You can do it, and actually someone like me would prefer to do that because I like to be in the kind of right environment to do it. But if you don't have to, you can just go to a field or whatever and run like crazy, as we said, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, do a break, do 6-7 times, whatever. It's going to take you 15 to 20 minutes.
Right.
You're going to feel amazing afterwards, and you're going to be basically doing that. And then before you talked about heavy weight. What I was applying to myself to heal, again with this paleo diet and this sleep and all that, and the fasting and was basically high intensity interval training and heavy weights.
There you go.
Basically just getting to the same kind of stuff.
The fundamentals are the same. I'm just because of the research and my curiosity, I just derived more things that are very defined, but the foundations are the same.
And what you said also super interesting, and that I massively read, is about going on a treadmill for 1 hour. How basically it's just not working. No. It's just not efficient. And a lot of people would just go and do. I've done my 1 hour of training, and I run 5 times 1 hour. But actually, you could do 5 times 20 minutes. Do a different kind of work, and it would be so much more efficient.
Absolutely. It's just one of the things that I always look at is efficiency. You want to maximize your output and have minimal input, and that's something that a lot of us don't really enjoy exercising. I know I don't, and I know a lot of people who, first of all, they know that it's good for them, but they don't want to do it. So this kind of program is just it's just easy.
And maybe a little kind of trick, which sounds a bit stupid, but again, based on my own experience, if you say, hey, now I want to get a bit more serious about gym, get a personal trainer for a couple of sessions. They're going to show you what to do. I spent the first 3 years of my gym just doing every machine around for 2 hours and a half, 3-4 times a week. I was destroyed afterwards, and it was just not working. And for some reason, I was just not thinking. And one day I was like, man, this PT has such like a massive chest. Like, I went to him, how do you do that? And he was just like, what do you do? And I was like, look, you see all these machines here? I just do everything. Like, and it sounds so stupid. I've done it for years. It sounds so, and I don't think I'm that stupid, but I was completely stupid actually. And then he was like, okay, I'll show you. Actually, you can do 5 times a week, 45 minutes. And actually chest, which should take you only 20 minutes, 2 times a week. And you're going to have a much bigger chest. And I was like, okay. And they just show you how to do it because they're professionals. Like, come on, like... It sounds so stupid, but like, do this. Like, save yourself.
It's not rocket science. It really isn't.
No. So okay. Next, after sleep, diet, and exercise, maybe some basic supplements.
Basic supplementation. So the reason to supplement, because a lot of people ask me actually, why do you have to supplement? If you're eating whole foods, if you're eating healthy, why would you supplement? Well, the main reason is because our soil quality, our food quality is so low at this point because our soils have been demineralized. When we used to live in the older times, you can ask your grandparents, they would actually sow different kind of vegetables into the same soil. So it changes the, I forget what it's called in English actually. Ultimately, like a diversification of the output, if you will. So ultimately, you want to maximize the quality of the soil. You want to constantly change the things that you're growing in it, and we're not doing that anymore. We're just maximizing the food production instead of maximizing the soil quality. And the minerals and the vitamins that are in the food right now, as compared to 20 years ago, it's about 60 or 70% lower than it used to be because of that. So knowing that, you really want to make sure that you're supplementing with at least vitamins A, D, E, and K. So those are the main fat-soluble vitamins, and you want to add some vitamin C and vitamin B12 into your diet as well. My preferred way of delivering those vitamins is actually intravenously. So getting an IV once a month is easy, but for fat-soluble vitamins, you just supplement that on a pretty much daily basis. Because vitamin D, as we know, it's an incredible tool for us to optimize our immune system. And right now, what's happening with the rampant inflammation and what's happening with the virus, it's actually shown to protect us from the virus spreading as well. So vitamin D is one of those factors.
Absolutely. Your 20 minutes a day of sun, and if you can't get them, get the actual caps.
Yeah, and the supplement companies that I recommend that are cleanest supplement producers are Thorne and Jarrow formulas. Those two are my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a short note on the food that I forgot that is so important. Mm-hmm. First one is you basically mentioned like the food doesn't contain the nutrient anymore than we need. Why? Because people need to understand that it's an industry, and all these companies, they're basically
maximize
for profit.
Profits. Yeah.
They're for profit, so they're going to basically lower the cost and hence the kind of quality of the whatever we eat that's everywhere, basically in supermarkets, to make money. So that's what people really need to understand. Like, whatever is around us is not made to make us feel better, but it's made to basically being sold to us at a profit, because there is shareholders, so people owning these companies that want to make money on their investment. That's just sad, but that's what it is.
It is. Go to farmers markets, go to local distributions, go to grow stuff yourself. I mean, that's if you have a possibility. Yeah.
And the next one basically is something I forgot to talk about food. It's so important, and kind of like it was massively important for me, which is you should, if you haven't done it yet, you should absolutely go do a food sensitivity and allergy test. So whenever you feel bad, anxiety, depression, whatever, this can come from stuff you're eating you don't even know. So for example, you could be allergic to avocado and be depressed. Or for example, for me, all my life I had mouth ulcers in my mouth, in my throat since I'm super young. And I discovered when I was 27 years old, like no doctor ever would tell me, like they would tell me, some people have skin problems, eczema, psoriasis, whatever, you have mouth problems. And they would never tell me, go do a sensitivity and allergy test. Never, ever. They would give me pills and stuff, again, to treat symptoms, but not. And the underlying reason was I did the food sensitivity and allergy test as part of all my biohacking journey. And I discovered that basically I was super intolerant to gluten. And gluten was never giving me any kind of stomach issue, whatever. But it was destroying my mouth and my throat since forever. Why? Because I was eating every morning bread. I was eating pasta every day. I was everything full of gluten. Bread, like, yeah. So
yeah, that'll jack you up real quick.
so basically, you don't. The first reflex you should have, even if you feel great, you're gonna be sensitive or allergic to something. It's absolutely certain.
Yeah.
Go do a food sensitivity and allergy test, because $200-300 is gonna give you. You're gonna test 200, 300, 400 different kind of nutrients, foods, and it's gonna give you a result. You're red there, like stop eating shrimps or pineapple or whatever. And you're like, holy shit, I didn't know that. And then you just with that you can feel 10 times better.
For sure. Yeah. And that's where it starts. That's why I want to reiterate. That's why I always start with the physical side of things, because without us having energy and generating energy from the physical body, we can't really get into anything else. It's like that's a foundation. We are living on a daily basis with this body that is carrying us through our existence, so might as well utilize it properly, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about now reprogramming yourself. We've talked about the basics. Some more advanced stuff that really works, and that for me that changed my entire life basically. And I think we have about 30 minutes left, so and there's quite a few things. So let's start with fasting.
Okay.
Water fast, fasting for health. Water fast, juice fast, intermittent fast. Like what do you have to tell us about that stuff? What happens when I fast? Why does it work so well to cure like the biggest physical pains and some of the worst diseases, and how it works also amazing well to basically heal your mind?
Right. So interestingly enough, when we are eating all the time, so our digestive system, our body is not able to tap into our stores that we have in our bodies. First of all, what happens when we fast, we go into our liver and into our muscles, and we deplete ourselves of glycogen. So glycogen is that extra storage for our body to hold on to energy. Once we deplete that, we start tapping into our fat store. So we start breaking down our fat cells, and ultimately we're getting energy from the fat storage, which we all have, depending on the percentage on the body. We all have fat stores within our bodies. And what happens is that when we're breaking down the fat cells, that's where most toxicity lives as well. So, and when we're breaking down the fat cells, it's called autophagy, so it's killing your old unused cells, so your body is literally regenerating. When you're eating, your body doesn't have, when you're constantly eating and you're not fasting at all, your body is constantly getting fed and constantly in the anabolic state. And it's never in so anabolic state is ultimately growth state. Catabolic is when we catabolize, when we break down our body. And our body needs to be broken down because we have those old cells that need to be regenerated. So that's ultimately what's happening on the high level from the perspective of fasting in the background. Now,
just one thing for people. So basically this autophagy thing is kind of the key thing, and just think about it as your body eating itself from the inside,
right? And
it's going to start with all the bad stuff, basically.
Yeah.
And that's how you that's how you can, it's going to eat like your bad stuff, both physically, but also mentally and emotionally. That's why a lot of people fast for religious reason and all that stuff.
Right.
Just continue.
For sure. And that's, combining the two is amazing because the sensitivity increases. So for example, when I meditate, when I go on my 10-day meditation retreats, I usually fast for the entirety of the time, one shape or form or another, because it just increases my sensitivity. I'm able to perceive more than I usually would. So when it comes to a practical application of fasting, is I would say four things that I would recommend. So first of all, everyone could benefit from at least a 13-hour fast from dinner to breakfast. So we don't need to stuff ourselves. We're not going to be hungry enough if we don't get. We ultimately condition ourselves to be hungry at a certain time. So you're not eating a lunch, breakfast, or dinner at a certain time because you're actually hungry. Most of us eat that because we condition ourselves to eat at a certain time, and that's problematic. So at least 13 hours from dinner to breakfast, you wanna have that window. If you're more active, you wanna keep that at 13. If you're less active, you naturally could extend that. For women, it can become problematic if they're a bit on the thinner side when it comes to hormonal pathways. So don't overdo it, because a lot of people tend to overdo it, which again, fasting is great for you, but it is a stressor. Like exercise is a stressor. So when you're over exercising, when you're over fasting, you're ultimately tapping into your energy systems. So you're depleting yourself of energy. And if your body is like a battery, so if you're discharging your body as battery in the negative, you're causing more harm than good. So that's something to be mindful of. Another thing that I would introduce is a few times a month you want to do a 24-hour fast. So that's a good, very easy. Every single person should be able to do it, and that's something that what I want to leave you with when it comes to fasting is that the hunger doesn't get worse. We have hormonal pathways, and the hormones rise. So leptin and ghrelin are the hunger and satiety hormones, and they're constantly fluctuating. So we have certain rise, and then it falls again. So it's not going to get any worse. It's just gonna get less unbearable. And when you think about right now about when you were super busy, last time you skipped a meal, it's like you were fine. It's like you didn't get super extra hungry and you had to eat while you were in the middle of something. It's just our body doesn't work that way. So 24-hour fast 1 to 4 times a month, that would be another one. And what I do personally is 3 times a year I do an extended fast for at least 5 days. So for 5 days, I have 2 protocols. One of them would be just water fast, or you just drink water, remineralize. You make sure that you're taking in minerals. So like there's a trace mineral solution in the water. So you're actually keeping your body running from a mineral perspective, because we lose a lot of water when we're fasting. And another one would be fasting mimicking protocol. So the researcher Walter Longo, he created this 5-day fasting mimicking protocol, which is easier than a water fast and is as effective or even more effective, the scientific studies shown. So you are ultimately eating about 20% of the calories that you normally would, and you're still eating something, but you're not eating protein. So that suppresses the mTOR pathway, which is the growth pathway, and it tricks your body into thinking that we're fasting. So those are 4 things to look into. So 13-hour fast, dinner to breakfast, 24 hours a few times a month, and then 5-day water fast or fasting mimicking protocols. That's it.
Amazing. Yeah. Just a small note on that. So when I started my recovery, I actually read about the fasting and how people who cured cancer would do either 7, 11, or even 21-day water fast. Yeah. Or they would do 30 to 90 days juice fast. So basically you eat nothing, and it would massively help people who both have mental health issues or like massive back pains, or you can actually, there's so many stories of people online, and everybody can just research that, about people who had massive back pain for years, and then they would just do a water fast 7 days or 9 days, and then boom, gone forever. Right. Like it's incredible, and it's something that's
a beautiful healing
people don't understand.
That is underestimated.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Iced bath, cold water, cryotherapy.
So that's one of the things that is a bit extra, and I do not see cold exposure as a massive. Actually, it's a big addition to. It's a bonus. So if you don't have anything else covered, like you don't have to worry about it. But if you do have access to it, you don't have to go out of your way to look for it. But if you do have an easy access to it, go for it. So cryotherapy or cold exposure would be a great thing to reduce inflammation, to improve your skin health, to boost your immune system, to recover faster. And then contrast therapy, so hot with cold, actually doing saunas and then going into the cold and contrasting those therapies is absolutely fantastic to produce cold shock proteins and heat shock proteins for, first of all, growth hormone production. Heat shock proteins are contributing to growth hormone production, especially when we're working out. Post-workout is amazing for you to get that extra boost of growth hormone, and then ultimately shifting between hot and cold. I usually do 15 minutes in the infrared sauna, 3 minutes in the ice bath, and do that 3 times back to back, about 3 times a week. And if you don't have access to it, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's a great trick actually. The cold shower or the ice bath. If you feel anxious, if you just want to cut the anxiety, You just jump into something really cool, and it's going to...
That's powerful. That is powerful.
Make you feeling amazing. Okay, meditation.
Meditation, my favorite subject. That's something that is, I found personally to be the most impactful thing that impacted every single area of my life. As I said in the beginning, that spirituality can be anything. Anything can be a spiritual experience. The conversation that you're listening to, the workout that you're doing, the business that you're creating. So meditation, particularly Vipassana meditation, ultimately allows you to see reality more clearly. Vipassana means seeing reality as it is, or seeing reality clearly. So ultimately you're able to create a clean slate. So we have all this inner chatter and inner critic and everything that's happening in our head. We're able to turn it off, just make it quiet. That's the first piece of the equation. You're ultimately focusing, you're creating that focus, which most of us don't have. Our minds are all over the place. So we're creating that focus and ability to actually sit in silence, which most of the population doesn't, and so that's first step. And then you take that sharpened awareness into your body, and you're able to undo it's an interesting thing, because our body is like a record. And I love, again, my colleague Dave teaches this, and he says that the body is like a record and our mind is like a needle, the sharp needle that we put on that record. And once the sharper the needle, the better that record plays. So when you're taking that mind, which is the sharpened needle, throughout your body, you ultimately feel the complexes and the blind spots that you have, and the mechanisms of like a muscular contractions. You literally become lighter. You feel lighter. So meditation, I could not recommend it more. I would say start with something that is called onedaymeditationchallenge.com. Start there. If you want to challenge yourself more and you're like, okay, I want to go hardcore, I want to go all in, do a 10-day meditation retreat. It's called Vipassana. It's vipassanaonline.com, and it's going to change your life. That's every single person who does it, they realize the power of their mind, the power of consciousness, the power of them bringing that not just into their lives, but into their business, into their relationships, into every single area of their life. And they say, wow, how come I have not discovered this earlier? Because most meditation techniques, and again, I've tried a lot of them. I tried mindfulness, I tried transcendental meditation, that I took a course, I tried Vedic meditation and different types of meditations, but they are kind of diluting the actual power and potential of meditation. It's presented in a way that it's like, do 20 minutes and it's like a pacifier. It's like you're like a kid getting those 20 minutes to suck on pacifier to calm down your mind. Meditation can do so much more than that. So you realizing that it can increase your focus, your productivity, your potential. Invest your time, because that's gonna be the best time you ever invest. That's by far.
Yeah. So basically, people are working on their physical health, going to gym. When you're meditating, you're actually doing to make it very simplified.
It's a gym for your mind.
It's a gym for your mind, exactly. And how do you, again, you're having all this stuff, you have this glass that is filling and filling and filling and filling, and with unprocessed thoughts. And basically this meditation, from what it does in a very kind of simplified ways, every time you sit down and you think about nothing, you're going to have all this mess everywhere. But you're actually processing your unprocessed thoughts one after the other. And you're going to sit down every day for a certain amount of time, for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And one day, this massive mess, it's still going to be a bit messy. There's always thoughts in your mind.
Which is so much faster. That chatter just quiets down so much faster.
Exactly. It's going to quiet down faster, and you have fewer of these thoughts, and which will mean that most of these unprocessed thoughts from this glass will have been processed. And and the result of that is your tolerance to stress, to any stress event external, is going to be much higher, and you're going to almost feel like unbothered by most of the things. And that's when you start to become kind of master of your own mind. And again, there is probably an infinite journey to go down that path. But again, if we think about, we have to do a lot of stuff in our life, like 20-80, you can actually, probably the 20% of like the effort you do will produce the 80% of the results for that kind of stuff. And
mastering your mind is easy, man. That's the thing, is undervalued, and kind of, or we have this limitation that we create ourselves, that we can't master our mind quickly. And it really, if you actually, that 1 day meditation challenge, you can truly master your mind in 1 day. Like really, a lot of people who have some sort of meditative experience, they go into that and then realize, oh damn, it's actually simpler than I realized. So yeah, try it out. It's definitely life changing.
Awesome. Let's talk about some plant medicine journey, basically. So here I split it into kind of hormonal balancing herbs, kind of testosterone boosting and all that stuff, and then nootropics. Do you want to basically go through these categories or others that you think are relevant and give a few examples and actually explain what it does and how life-changing it is?
So plant medicines are ultimately, I tried plant medicines. I've worked with nootropics for quite a bit, very actively, and different herbs, Ayurvedic herbs, and they're called actually I'm drawing a blank right now, the nutrients. Anyway, so they're nothing was as impactful as meditation for me, so I kind of stuck with that, and I know that that's the best nootropic that I could ever have. But for nootropics, there are a bunch of compounds that are ultimately maximizing your chemical potential in the moment. So an ability to focus, an ability to get shit done in a more efficient manner. So what you took, methylene blue, is a great one. Creatine is another one that is a great. It's a supplement for our bodies and our minds. Actually, people knock nicotine, but nicotine is, without cigarettes, nicotine itself as an isolated substance, it's neuroprotective. There are actually studies deployed that it's stopping Alzheimer's or slowing down Alzheimer's, and it is a nice pick-me-up and a stimulant that can be utilized functionally.
If microdosed.
Exactly, if microdosed. You don't want to. It is an addictive substance at the end of the day, but if microdosed, you can do that. And nootropics is one of those things that what goes up must come down. So you have to be very aware of that. Those racetams and stuff like that, they're very, when it comes to just pharmaceuticals and chemical substances, I'm just not a huge fan of them because I know that they are messing up our biology, messing up our biochemical health. So I'm not a huge fan of them. Now, plant medicines, they are great to shake you up, but it's nothing that 1 day of meditation wouldn't do. Honestly, it's like a quicker way and almost a cheating way to get into that altered state, because what it does is ultimately creating that altered awareness, heightened awareness, and altered states of consciousness that you possess within you. They're just getting triggered through that plant medicine. So when it comes to plant medicines, I am a fan of mushrooms, the ayahuasca, the peyote. They're definitely great substances to experiment with. Again, they're not going to be be all solution. A lot of people go into that expecting that it's going to heal us, it's going to change us, it's going to transform us, and that's not the case. You have to do the work regardless. So it's like and the way I compare that to meditation is like you're taking a helicopter to the top of a mountain, you're getting dropped off, and then you just fumble your way down. Whereas meditation takes you you train to ascend that mountain, you go up, you think that it was a peak, you go higher and higher and higher, and then if you choose to descend it, you don't have to fumble your way down. You can actually integrate in an integrated way, step-by-step way, achieve the altered states of consciousness. So
what kind of mushrooms did you talk about?
Mushrooms as a medicinal, not medicinal mushrooms, as chaga, reishi, and lion's mane and stuff like that. No, I wasn't talking about those. I was talking about actual the hallucinogenic mushrooms, psilocybin.
Okay. The psychedelic one.
Yeah,
basically.
But the adaptogens, that was the word actually. So adaptogens such as ashwagandha, the reishi, lion's mane, the cordyceps mushrooms, and all these medicinal compounds, they're actually, interestingly enough, they're kind of regulating our system. They're working with our body. So I do see a lot of benefit in them. I just again kind of stopped taking them because I'm not, first of all, I was taking way too many pills, in terms of supplements, and I realized that there's just rate of diminishing return, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. So basically, on my side, I've been using because I had a lot of with my problems, and I had a lot of memory issues, cognitive impairment, all that stuff. So actually to rebuild kind of neuroplasticity, like I basically use lion's mane mushrooms, bacopa, monieri, cola, and I was just basically, I was rotating them because I was just thinking in terms of you develop tolerance at some point. So adaptation. How do I need to find 3 or 4 that I will take 1 week, boom, take the next one week, like just to not develop tolerance. It's still kind of working. And actually nowadays I still take sometimes some lion's mane in my coffee with MCT oil, and the level of focus is kind of like a completely natural pre-workout. It's amazing. Like it's ridiculous how just some lion's mane in coffee makes you like so focused. And again, you can take it to basically, I really like rebuilt my unfunctioning brain with this stuff, which is incredible. Like, and a lot of people would not believe it, but it's just ridiculous. And then on the kind of hormonal balancing thing, so what I discovered is, I mean, at some point I was really hardcore in it, was what can I take that is full of nutrient that's going to increase my testosterone? Because at the end of the day, what guys and girls need, especially guys, but even girls, it's actually higher testosterone levels. And that's why a lot of guys do testosterone replacement therapy. But there is actually a way to do it very naturally by taking herbs such as pine pollen, which basically is just pollen from the pine. Tonkat, Ali, there's quite a ashwagandha. There's a lot of these herbs that you can actually...
And actually for testosterone optimization, it's simply being in the sun, lifting heavy weights.
Exactly.
That's literally what contributes to it.
If you do all this stuff together, so I would be like at some point really hardcore in it and do like, I would have 21 herbs, rotate them every day, because these testosterone boosting herbs, they're even more, you adapt to them even quicker. So we just take 1 per day, every day for 21 days. And then like basically rotate like that. And this is kind of a testosterone replacement therapy, so natural one. And
there is actually a book called Testosterone Optimization Therapy Bible, TOT Bible. That is a decent read if you want to dive into that. Actually, I haven't deployed it on myself. I have heard good things from colleagues in the field. So obviously, as everything else, do your own research, but Bible, that's the name of it. Yeah, it's a good book to read.
Do you want to talk about other kind of non-medicinal stuff, like more synthetic? You talked a bit already about some pharmaceutical stuff. Like one of the things I used, which is kind of not really legal, it's kind of like gray area, is some pro-hormones, like kind of steroids. Right. So because I needed it, like I was like, okay, what's the product that has the exact side effects opposite from the pill that killed me? And I found out that basically is steroids, so what these guys take from the gym, this is way too strong. So I found something that is 1/7 of the potency. It's called pro-hormones. And I took that I did a cycle for a month after preparing my whole body with herbs for a month and all that stuff, doing water fast 5 days, 7 days, 9 days, like multiple cycles. And when I took that stuff, I was fucking Superman. And like literally, like I was having, when I was sleeping, I had these like super, these vivid dreams, crazy vivid dreams, sleeping much deeper. When I was feeling amazing all the time, I was much more focused for work, business. And when you go to gym, you feel like you need to be careful to not kill your ligaments and tendons and joints, because you're just much more powerful. And that's the day I realized that everything is basically just biochemistry. It's crazy. So whatever you optimize your mind, all this stuff you can take or do, or sun, food, again, like people don't realize, but you just compound all this stuff together and it's going to make like 100 times difference in your life. Literally.
Oh, absolutely. And the interesting thing is that those things for some people are just bringing them. The reason why I always tell people to actually cover the bases first and go after the fundamentals is because when you establish a strong foundation, that stuff is going to be so much more effective than if you're right here, you're underneath the baseline and it's just bringing you up to speed. So you're not actually getting the full potential and full benefits of the things that you're taking. For example, peptides. Peptides is another thing. A BVC 157, delta sleep-inducing peptides, TB500. So those are ultimately repairing your body from within. I'm a huge fan of NAD injections as well. So NAD is ultimately something that is happening within our electron transport chain. When we're producing energy, you're getting more more of the energy that is being produced, to put it simply. So NAD injections are becoming super popular in the executive circles right now, and just making sure to actually pair that with TMG, trimethylglycine. So that would be another recommendation that I have. And overall, I know we threw quite a bit of the information. The thing that I usually tell people to focus on is, first of all, right now you learned a lot of things, you heard a lot of things, you can go back and to re-listen to every single one of those areas, so you're no longer ignorant. Now the thing is to actually take action and do something about it. And if you're not doing something about it, then understand what is actually holding you back. The beliefs that you have about this stuff, about changing, the comfort that you have to not change, the reasons that are subconsciously holding you back and not spurring you to make some changes. And because you have the tools right now, it's like you can no longer say that you're ignorant, that you can no longer say that you haven't heard about this stuff. So right now, going into those foundational principles and actually checking the boxes and going step by step and optimizing your day to day. And if you're not doing it, then understand what's happening in your subconscious and start digging, start looking for what's happening underneath the surface. So that's because information is just it's just potential power. It's only powerful. Exactly. It's only powerful when deployed and when actually applied.
Absolutely. And maybe to finish, like exactly what you said, don't look at these herbs or this stuff and say like a medicine. You would just say, but now I discovered this herb, so it's kind of like more. It's more healthy than taking medicines, but and I'm just going to take them and I'm going to become Superman, or I'm going to heal my anxiety or whatever.
It's not magic.
You need to work on this sleep, diet, exercise, and kind of basic supplement, like basic stuff. You have your basics in place, and then on the top, you're going to do all this stuff that will compound and become much bigger. If you just go and take a few herbs, might help you out kind of in the short term, but it's going to act as a medicine. Right. You're not going to treat the underlying cause. You're going to treat the symptom basically. And that's completely the wrong way to go about it. And understand that it's not taking a few more pills or a few more herbs, but it's actually basically developing an entire new mindset about your life.
Right.
You're changing as a person, and this is what's going to compound in every aspect of your life and going to make your life 10 times better, 10 times more successful in whatever you want: business, work, money, relationships. Because at the end of the day, everything is about relationships. So if you feel much better with yourself, you're going to develop better personal relationship, friendships, business relationship. People will feel it's just this self-attracting kind of success theory where people can feel your energy. And if you feel amazing because you're working on these basic pillars and they're basically kind of in check and right, people will feel your energy and will just want to be around you, and you're just going to attract success naturally with time. And it's so important.
It starts from within. That's the thing. It's just one of the things that I'm just happy that I learned this early, and it didn't take me until my 50s or 60s where I was chasing one thing after another until I realized, hey, none of this shit actually matters, and the only thing that does matter is the way you feel about yourself, the way your body functions, and the way you can actually your time, focus, and attention to people and opportunities that truly matter to you on a soul level. So that's man.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
What a shot. What a shot. How long did we go for? It's like way over 2 hours, eh?
I think a bit more than 2 hours.
Yeah,
That's perfect, man. Thank you so much for doing this. Man. AJ, where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Human Optimized on Instagram. That's the easiest way to find me. I'm running a company called the Yogi Lab. So that _yogi_lab. That's a personal development company where we give meditation to the world for free, and we have personal development courses. And the easiest way would be Instagram.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this.
Pleasure, man.
That was awesome.
Good stuff.
You!
Yeah.
Good stuff.